Hi, I'm Liz Conway, and I'm interviewing Richard Caudill as part of Fairhope Library's Veterans Oral History Project. And right now I'm going to turn it over to Richard. And Richard, tell us about your service.
Guys, I'm Richard Caudill, and as she said, I'm sitting here with Liz in the Fairhope Public Library. Very, very excited about doing this. I grew up, I started in eastern Kentucky, ended up in southern Indiana, graduated from high school, and I had a good job. I was working at a muffler factory in Columbus, Ohio, Indiana. Of course, last hired, first laid off, and I'm talking about rural America now. You look around and there ain't nothing to do but farm work, and I done had all of that I wanted. I knew that my draft number was coming up. It was pretty close. So I thought, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do what I want to do. So I went to all of the recruiters and I elected to enlist in the Navy. So they hustled me right on out. It was 3 days after I signed the papers, I'm gone. So
what year was this?
This was in July the 11th of 1963. And so for the first 2 or 3 days, it was just okay. And then we get to Great Lakes, and on the bus, here's standing this first class out there in his little dress whites, man. He's looking sharp. I mean, say, okay, guys, get off the bus. I said, okay. So up until this point, we ain't had no issues. So we were lollygagging and kind of getting off. He gave that about 4 or 5 seconds, and then he got a little bit louder. I told you guys to get off of that bus. So we still ain't got really realized. And then the next thing I know, his face is red, his veins are standing out of his neck, and he's screaming, I said, kick the windows out, get off of that bus. Of course, he said that a whole lot bit more emphatic than that. And that's when I thought to myself, oh, good Lord, what have I done? And it never let up. So, of course, went through boot camp, got all of that done, and then I went to Millington, Tennessee for school. Graduated out of that. I was an aviation structural mechanic. I was an AME, and I was the one that dealt with the air conditioning, pressurization, ejection seats, blah, 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 blah. And then they were opening the base at NAS Meridian. So I got assigned to VT-9, which was a training squadron in Meridian, Mississippi. And I went there in March of '64, and they had opened the base in '63. At that time, all of the NS personnel, VT-7 and 9, we just had a total of 350 people on this base. And it was, man, I mean to tell you, it was rough as a cob. And of course, you know, evolution, they got everything better. It was getting better and all this kind of stuff. So we were training pilots to be aviators, of course. And so it was from can to can't. There wasn't enough people, and we were really out of, you know, and we would do the night ops and then turn around at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and have to come back and do the day ops. And it was a kind of a stressful time until they got some more manpower in, and then it got better. This is absolutely one of the best jobs I believe I ever had in my life. I never enjoyed anything any more than what I did about working on these airplanes. It was, you had to do it with your hands, you had to do it with your mind, and you had to make sure that it was absolutely correct, because somebody's life depended on you. The ejection seats that I fixed, I had 10 guys that ejected using my seats. 8 of them survived. 2 of them, on coming off of the runway, the plane flamed out. And it had got into this motion when the back seat came out, and this was early on in the base, so it blew him all up into a bunch of trees. By the time the second one came out, he was like this, the aircraft was, and it just drove him into the ground, because that thing is moving 180, I mean, it's a rocket, you know. So those were the only two that I lost. Of course, every time you do that, you know, you have to go to captain's mast and all this kind of stuff to make sure all of that was, you know, everything was done right. But one of the interesting things about that is whenever you're doing them seats, they've got shotgun shells in them that make them go off. You got this big old cage, you know, that you're working on and all of this thing, and when you hear that thing click, you know you got to go. We set one of them off 2 times. We set it off, and of course upstairs is all of the personnel officers and everything. Brother, let me tell you what, we cleaned them out when them seats went off. Oh God! And I thought, you know, we were going to get real trouble over that, but they kind of let it slide. I got qualified on everything that the Navy had, every vehicle, everything that they did. I was just, man, I mean, I was into this, and I wanted to fly. I was just fascinated with this. So I qualified. I had the scores and stuff to qualify to be an aviator, and then they did my physical, and my depth perception was so bad that I couldn't do it. So anyhow, the leading chief of our squadron, I was talking to him about it. He was a good dude, and he asked me, he said, "You ever heard of a request, Chet?" And I said, "No." He said, "Well, if you want to fly, fill out one of them." I said, "Oh, you got to be kidding me." And I went and did it right then. 3 days later, I'm down at Pensacola. I'm qualified. Man, you talk about a white boy getting his hair on fire. But anyhow, I got to fly in the back seat. And we had this lieutenant, his name was Tull. He was from over in South Carolina. Me and him used to drink cold beer on the beach together. And anyhow, every time he would go up, he would put me in the back seat. And we went everywhere. I mean, we went everywhere. I was carrier qualified. I went in and out of Vietnam. I went into France. We just went everywhere. And one of the most interesting things that happened when this aviation stuff was on the Enterprise, got chunked up in the back seat as a occupant. They little bet made about $100. They were trying to see if they could make you sick. You know, that was a big thing. Let's make that back seat guy sick. So anyhow, we leave the carrier. Man, we in this combat mode. Here we go. We're cooking it up. So going through all of this stuff, and we're doing some combat maneuvers and different things like that. And I'm whispering to this lieutenant that's flying this plane. I said, "Come on, man, show me some of this pilot stuff." And he was having a fit. But anyhow, whenever we got ready to go back to the ship, he told me, he said, "I'm going to do something for you." I said, "Okay." And this was one of them Kodak moments. Anyhow, he took us up and broke the sound barrier. And when he did, he told me, he said, "You be watching that left wing." Whenever we did that, you could physically see the air flowing over that wing. I never saw anything like that in my life. And then just instantaneously, it is just stone quiet. I mean, in this, you know, it's unbelievable, because you're outrunning sound. When I quit flying, we had one that flamed out, and we went through everything, getting it all, just totally dismantled the aircraft, and then put it all back together and put it up for a test flight. Well, Lieutenant Tull was a test pilot. "All right, Richard, here we go." I said, "I ain't going." He said, "Oh yeah, Yeah, he said, you get to go and ride and do all of the fun stuff and everything, and you get your $55 a month for doing all of that. Now this is the bad part of it. You get your butt up in there just like I am. So here we go. We're off up and we're doing all of this stuff, and we're strafing cows and we're flying and we're doing everything trying to get this airplane to flame out. It ain't doing it. So he says, okay, we're about to run out of fuel. We got enough. Let's go home. I said, good deal. He makes one of these jobbies to go like that, and the thing, guess what? It quit. I'm done. I ain't doing this no more. We were at 22,000 feet. Here we go. I'm screaming and hollering, man, I'm going to eject us. No, you're not. And he took the stuff to where he controlled it. He said, we're gonna drop down to 15,000 feet, and I'm gonna try to crank it again, and we'll see what we got. So we did that. No good. It didn't work. I'm hollering. So anyhow, we get down to 10, and he said, all right, when we get to 10, if it don't crank, you punch us out. And I said, well, give me the thing, and I'll guarantee you I won't do it until you say go. He said, okay. So here we go. We get down to 10. He pulls that little swoop on the thing, sucking that air up in it, and damn, the thing didn't crank. So we fly back, get down. They tore it apart again, and what they found out is the fuel cell in the thing was a big old rubber balloon, and it had about a 6 or 8 nozzle on it, and whenever it would get at a certain position, that glue had come loose, and it would do a number like that, and it would cut the fuel off, and that's all it was. So they fixed that, and that, it was good to go. It just rocked on. It was just, it was peacetime, and really wasn't no big deal. This is probably 65, 66, late 66 is what it was, because I got out in 67. But anyhow, when I got back on the ground, it took me 45 minutes to get out of that airplane. And when I did, I just took all that flight gear off and just dropped it right there on the flight deck. Said, I'm done. That was the end of me. I never did. And I'm 76 years old now, and I have not been in another airplane since, and ain't going. If I can't go on a boat or in a car or something other, I ain't going. But one of the things that you stop and think about, you don't realize how much of an impression all of this military discipline and stuff imparts to you. It's been from 67 to 2021, and I'm sure everybody can do the same thing, but my service number was 685-5103. I mean, how do you remember stuff like that? And I conduct myself a certain way, I dress a certain way. I think one of the things that's happening to our world today, you stop and think about it. The draft ended in 1973. Anybody that was born in 55 or 56 didn't have to worry about that, because it was over with before they got old enough to have to deal with it. I think a lot of people lose track of the idea of my generation. When I went to school, first thing we did every morning, we said the Pledge of Allegiance, and we said the morning prayer. And what did that teach us? It taught us patriotism and religion, that there was something more than just us. I feel like that you look at some of the other countries that it's mandatory for the kids when they get 18, and it don't matter whether they're a boy or a girl, they have to go and do 2 years of military service. I think it teaches you, it tests you, because they put you to the absolute maximum that you can stand. And these guys are trained, these instructors and stuff, just as soon, and they can read it in your eyes, just as soon as you reach that point. They may be talking ugly, you ain't worth what, but you're going to make it. It's an instantaneous rebuild. And once you come back up out of that, there ain't a whole lot that people can do to you that will make you not believe in yourself, because you believe in your country, you believe in what you know. I think about, I've got grandkids now, great grandkids that are in their 20s. I listen to them and I think to myself, come on. But then I also think about this. I've been studying the Bible a lot, and I read that I need to put myself in the time frame of the Bible to be able to understand it. So what I'm beginning to do is I'm beginning to understand that these kids that are 22 to 25 years old, they're living what they know. And if you've never lived it, to be free in America, you don't know what it is. And I did. The best time to be born was between 1925 and 1955. You think about the stuff that we did that with no supervision, no parental supervision, nobody got hurt, nobody, we just, I saw this bumper sticker the other day, and I thought it was so appropriate. It says, support wildlife, raise boys. Okay, so it was just, I would do it again. If the good Lord would willing and they would let me do it, I would do it all over again. Whenever it got time for me to get out, I was making $90 a month. My wife was working, she was making $57 a week. We had 2 children, and I was working at Sears and Roebuck part-time, on their management program. I was making $115 a week. My military pay was $90 a month. $115 a week, $90 a month. That wasn't a real hard decision to make. So I went out. And looking back in hindsight, I sometimes wonder if that was really a real good decision. But the way it's worked out, I've had a real good life. Had 2 more children, and got a bunch of kids and grandkids and all that kind of stuff. So it has impacted me, and I really, 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 really was glad that I did it.
Would you encourage your grandchildren to join service?
I've got a grandson that is graduating from the University of Alabama. My son was 4 years in the Navy, full time. Then he spent 21 years and 6 months in the Alabama Army National Guard. He went to Iraq for a solid year. He was a combat soldier. Then he went back to Afghanistan for another solid year, another combat tour. His son is talking to him now about enlisting into the service and then of course, with that college degree, that'll make him an officer. So he's really, really thinking about doing that.
Did you develop any long-lasting friendships from your time in service?
Not really. I got one guy, he lives in Portland, Oregon. His name is Stacy McMichael. We always called him Lucky. And he's the only one that I really ever really just kind of took care of or dealt with. No, I didn't. Mm-hmm. I didn't really have that close.
Sounds like you had your hands full with family.
I did. Oh, I tell you. And then, like I say, I had 2 daughters at the time that I got out, and so I had all of that going. And so.
And what about any veterans organizations?
Ma'am?
Just any of the like the VFW or any of those?
I never got into any of that. Mm-hmm. Now, I do belong to the Knights of Columbus. Talking about this military I've been involved in that a good little bit. My Uncle George, and he's my daddy's brother. Me. I get a lot out of that. He was more of a father to me than my daddy was. And George, all the time I was in the Navy, all of the years and everything, George, I never knew. I knew that he was in the Army, but I just, he just never talked it. And after he passed away, his wife, Claudia, said, "You want to see Uncle George's box?" I said, "Box?" She said, "Yeah." So she goes and gets it. It's this beautiful teak wood box. And she opens it up, and it is just full of medals. Uncle George was the first paratrooper that they dropped behind German lines at Normandy.
Oh my.
I mean, he was bad to the bone. I mean, he just did it.
But you didn't know this growing up.
I didn't know this. He never ever mentioned it. And I, I asked Daddy. I said, "Wasn't Uncle George in the Army?" "Oh yeah, he was in the Second World War." And that's all they ever said about it. And then, living where I did, I mean, it was really rural. And you talk about in the 50s and 60s, we had an outhouse. We used kerosene lamps. We burnt wood for heat. And the old house we bought, that my daddy had a house and 40 acres of land in Kentucky, and our first cousin had a house and 40 acres in southern Indiana. My daddy was a coal miner, and a mine collapsed on him, broke his back. And my mama had two brothers that was in there. One of them got killed, and the other one got broke up real bad. So once they got Daddy well, he was so claustrophobic he couldn't go back down in them mines. So our first cousin that lived in southern Indiana wanted to move back. Daddy wanted to move out. Both of them had their places paid for, so they just traded. And that's how we ended up in southern Indiana. Well,
was it a lot more modern conveniences in southern Indiana?
Oh no.
No?
No.
So when you went to the military, were you shocked by all the...
Oh, good Lord. And then, you think about what they offer, Now, I think whenever I first went in, I think I was making $85 a month. Mm-hmm. All right, you think, well, that ain't a whole lot of money. Yes, it is. Mm-hmm. When all your medical, all your food, everything, the only thing that you have to buy is toothpaste and soap. And if you smoke, some cigarettes. And that was it. Mm-hmm. So, oh gosh. Oh, Lord have mercy. We had this first class, big old guy. I mean, he was huge. And he was our mid-ranch cook. And he was such a, oh my Lord, he was such a good cook that the guys that worked in the daytime would set their clocks and get up and go eat breakfast with him, and then come back and go back to bed to get back up. Oh my God, this guy. Don't tell me that this food in the military is bad. No, Oh, and the first time I'm in boot camp, I go down through the chow line, and this guy says, "How you want your eggs?" I said, "Well, the easiest way you can do it." He broke. Oh. He broke them and put them in that old metal tray. And I said, "What?" He said, "Just what you said, move." I was ready for him the next morning, man. When I come down through there, I want him over easy.
But cooked.
Yeah. There you go. That's the easiest way I can do them. Oh, Lord.
Anything else that you would want somebody to know if they were considering joining?
Oh, God, do it. Don't hesitate. Do it. You will learn more about yourself. You will learn more about people. You will learn more about what you can and cannot do. I don't have any ego whatsoever. I know what I can and can't do, and if I can't do it, I ain't ashamed to tell you, hey, I can't do that. Somebody else needs to do this one, because I can't. And I ain't ashamed of it. And I'm not Mr. Macho. And I learned that, that you gotta know when, as the saying is, you gotta know when to hold them and when to fold them. I think I've built my life really off of that military experience, because I learned what was important, and I think I did that at a very early age, and I've never regretted it. I've always been extremely proud of it, and you can see it in the way that I move and the way that I talk and the way that I think about things, my mind is very, very disciplined. I don't splatter. I mean, once I settle in and I figure things out, what I want to do, I know exactly how to do it, what to do, and I will finish it. It's just like being in the service. You have a mission. You have certain things that you have to do, and you've got to do them. I do my dead level best to dress nice. Whenever I was in the service, that was one of the things. My oldest daughter, she was old enough that she could iron, and I would pay her a dime a garment to iron my pants and my shirts that I worked in. I went every day. I mean, they had creases in them. If you rubbed your hand down them, they'd cut you. I mean, she was good at it, and I stayed sharp. And I do it today. I can't go if I feel like I'm looking like a bum. I mean, I gotta be at a certain level, or I ain't going. And I think that's part of it. My work ethic is, I worked 41 years for one company, and I bet you out of that whole length of time, I bet you I never missed a month's worth of days, because I got doing something that I wanted to do. I enjoyed it, but then I knew that I needed to show up. And that's, I mean, you know, you got to muster in every morning in the service. You know, you got to show up, and that just carries through the rest of your life. You just got to show up. You got to be there. Days after day after day of the same old Pete and repeat, you know, this work till you couldn't. We had all kinds of incidences of, I like to got court-martialed one time because of that. I was in charge of I was a nighttime petty officer, and we had this fleet sailor. He thought he was God's gift to the Navy, and whenever you come in at night like that, you've got all of them wands and things that you direct these guys with. Well, he wouldn't pay no attention to the wands. He just did what he wanted to do. Well, he can't see all of the guys that are around. He liked to hit somebody 2 or 3 different times. So I had this Marine captain that was my division officer, and his name was Patterson. And I went to Captain Pete, and I said, Captain Pete, and I told him, you know, what this guy was doing, blah, 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 blah. He said, I don't want to hear you junk. You're the damn nighttime petty officer. You do what you need to do to stop that. I said, okay. So the next evening, this guy coming in, I got a guy hanging on the tip tank on his thing. He gets so far, blah, 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 and I give him an emergency stop. And he ain't stopping, so then I cut the wands off. And whenever you do that, you're defenseless. And whenever I did that, the guy hanging on the tip tank slung a chalk up underneath the wheel. Woo, 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 around he goes. And I let him sit there. He sat there maybe 30 or 45 minutes. And then I walked out there to him. I climbed up on the side of the plane. I said, well, now, Lieutenant, are you ready to follow these winds? If not, we'll let you sit here till daylight. I'm going to have you court-martialed. I said, you probably will, but you're going to do what I tell you, because I'm in charge of this until you step out of that plane. And you ain't going to kill one of my guys. So next morning, here I am. Captain Patterson snatches me up, and we go to captain's mess. And anyhow, the commander, he wanted to start fussing, and Captain Patterson stepped up and he said, no. He said, I knew all about this. He said, Caudill did just what I told him to do. He said, I'll take care of this. The commander kind of looked at him and he said, well, okay. So we go back outside, and brother, let me tell you what, you have never heard a Marine, call somebody to attention. That whole upper place up there, all of them personnel guys, they all snapped to, man. I mean to tell you, and he got in his case. Oh my Lord, he was talking back about some of his ancestries in the 15 or 1600s. I mean, he got ugly. And he told him, he said, these guys out here are doing a job, and you're going to do what they tell you to do. And we never had another incident with him at all. I think it embarrassed him more than anything else. But boy, I tell you what, that Captain Pedersen, he was strong. But and then I figured out how to do this. Now you talk about, now we're in middle southern Mississippi, and it is hot, and humidity, and out on this flight landing, they ain't nothing, just concrete. But anyhow, I got it worked out that whenever these guys get in there, when they turn their air conditioner on the first time in that airplane, it would snow. It would snow in the cockpit. They just, oh my God, what?
I love it.
But I was a really good aircraft mechanic. I really liked it, and so I really studied it hard. I mean, I was good.
Did you use any of those skills in your life out of the military?
Well, no, not really. During that time frame, I did apply for a job at Boeing Aircraft, and they offered me a job, but it was in Washington State, and I was in Mississippi, and to get there and all of that, and in '67, there really wasn't a lot of work, and in this part of the world, there wasn't any skill sets that I had that I could use, with that.
Sounds like the life skills you learned in the military are what served you so well.
What served me so well, yeah. And you can't flim-flam me. You can't pull a hoodoo on me, because I can read you, and I know who you are, and I can tell when you're honest and when you're not. And I never let myself get into positions that it would harm me because of, you stop and think of how many people that I met, and good Lord, I mean, it was just, and the military is just a big family. Everybody takes care of everybody. Nobody don't, a lot of the guys, whenever they would be having trouble or something other like that, well, why don't you come by the house and have supper with me,
Thank you for your service and for your help with this project.
I probably overestimated your curiosity, but I was glad to do this.